Hey there, how's it going? We're happy to have all of you tuning in from around the world. If you're new here, welcome to the family. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So, let's talk about Israel. It has two major weak points. The first one is that it simply can't handle high numbers of casualties, mainly because it has a small population. The second is that it can't afford long wars. Historically, all of Israel's wars have been short, quick strikes. Now there's one military leader that Netanyahu, and every Israeli leader before him, really feared. Why? Because he was one of the few people who truly understood the weaknesses of the Israeli army, and the poison that weakens the Israeli state day by day. Even after Egypt made peace with Israel, Sadat struggled to deal with this man's influence, and Mubarak couldn't tolerate the publication of his memoirs about the 1973 war. He even threw him in jail. So, who is this general? What's his story? And what did Israeli army commanders say about him after he exposed their weaknesses? We're about to reveal a lot of hidden details and secrets, so stick around, dear viewer. This man is Saad El-Shazly, a highly respected figure within the Egyptian military. He climbed the ranks and eventually became chief of staff. In 1970, President Gamal Abdel Nasser appointed him as the commander of the Red Sea Military Zone, especially after repeated Israeli raids, kidnappings of civilians and attacks on coastal facilities in that area, particularly following the infamous Zafarana incident on September 9, 1969. Nasser believed General Shazly was the right man to stop Israel's deep incursions, and he was right. Shazly successfully reduced Israeli attacks in the area. Then, on January 2, 1970, Shazly managed to repel an Israeli assault on Shadwan Island, a rocky island in the Red Sea near the mouth of the Gulf of Suez. Israel had bombed it from the air and landed troops using helicopters and boats. But Shazly ordered a counterattack, enlisting help from local residents and moving soldiers and equipment there under the cover of night. He successfully liberated the island from Israeli forces. After Nasser's death, Anwar Sadat came to power and appointed Shazly as Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces on May 16, 1971, as part of what was called the Corrective Revolution, a move by Sadat to remove remnants of Nasser's old regime. Shazly was chosen for his long military experience, his outstanding skills, and his deep knowledge of military science, which he had gained through studies in both the US and the Soviet Union.
Israel has tons of weapons and gear, and someone's always willing to pay the bill for them. But Israel panics when it loses soldiers, because its manpower is limited and hard to replace. That's why a prolonged war is like poison to Israel. It weakens it day by day.
In August 1971, he developed what became known as the High Minarets Plan, a strategy to attack Israeli forces by crossing the Suez Canal and destroying the heavily fortified Bar Lev line, which Israel had built after seizing the Sinai Peninsula in the 1967 war. This line was designed to block any Egyptian forces from crossing. Shazly's plan became central to the strategy behind Egypt's surprise assault in the 1973 war.
Our weak air defenses meant we couldn't launch a massive attack. But who said we needed to? We could launch a limited operation, cross the canal, destroy the Bar Lev line, and hold a strip of land 10 to 12 kilometers east of the canal.
The philosophy behind the plan was based on two main Israeli vulnerabilities: inability to handle heavy casualties due to its small population, and inability to sustain long wars, since past conflicts showed Israel relied on quick victories within 4 to 6 weeks. That's because during war, about 18% of Israel's population gets mobilized, a huge number. The economy halts, education stops, agriculture and industry shut down, because many of the workers are in the military. Shazly's strategy was to drag the war out and bleed Israel's resources.
Once I cross the canal and take a strip of land 12 kilometers deep across a 170-kilometer front, I'll deny Israel two of its biggest advantages. First, it won't be able to attack from the sides, since the Egyptian army's flanks will be secured by the Mediterranean Sea to the north and the Gulf of Suez to the south. Second, it won't be able to attack from behind, because the canal will block it. So Israel will be forced into a direct frontal attack, and that will cost them dearly.
Despite his brilliant tactics and the respect he earned from soldiers and officers, Shazly's popularity became a threat to others in the military elite. His name was used as a scapegoat for any failures or losses. On December 2, 1973, just after the war, Field Marshal Ahmed Ismail summoned him and told him that President Sadat had decided to end his role as Chief of Staff and transfer him to a civilian position.
Even that wasn't enough. He was eventually dismissed from military service altogether. The Egyptian leadership then worked to discredit him, painting him as a failure in front of the armed forces. When I signed the Camp David Accords in 1978, Shazly harshly criticized the agreement, openly opposing it and accusing me of being a dictator. He resigned from his position as ambassador to Portugal and went to Algeria as a political refugee. Even though many kings offered him asylum, he chose to go to Algeria. He explained his choice by saying that Algeria was a country based on collective leadership, not individual rule.
President Sadat didn't take that lightly. He fired back at Shazly, accusing him of cowardice and blaming him for the Israeli breach during the war. Sadat even claimed Shazly returned from the front lines on October 14, 1973, in a state of confusion. But unlike Sadat, former Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Dayan actually praised Shazly in his memoirs. Dayan wrote,
"The Egyptians had a great commander named Shazly, who led the general staff. He was truly one of the smartest military leaders I've ever seen. I'm saying this for the record, not to benefit anyone personally. He was one of the sharpest Egyptian officers."
Even Ariel Sharon, the infamous Israeli general who led a reserve division in the 1973 war, said,
"Shazly was one of the most brilliant Egyptian officers, a true professional in every sense, I have to admit that."
But despite his achievements, Shazly's own country turned on him. In 1983, he published his memoirs, giving a detailed account of the Egypt-Israel battles. That led to him being tried in absentia during President Mubarak's rule. He was charged with revealing military secrets and sentenced to 3 years of hard labor in prison. His property was seized, he was stripped of his legal rights, and he lost his political status. In March 1992, after spending 14 years in exile in Algeria, 2 under Sadat and 12 under Mubarak, Shazly returned to Egypt. He was arrested immediately at Cairo airport. All of his medals and honors were revoked, and he was forced to serve his prison sentence in a military prison. Military court rulings in Egypt can't be appealed or overturned and don't expire with time. He faced 2 charges: publishing a book without prior approval, which Shazly admitted to, revealing military secrets, which he strongly denied, insisting that the so-called secrets were political, not military. Shazly requested a public retrial, but his request was denied. In October 1993, he was released under a general amnesty.
After his release, he lived quietly and away from the spotlight. He returned to his village, donated land to fund a mosque, and continued to work as a strategic analyst, writing and commenting on Arab affairs until his passing.
He died on Thursday, February 10, 2011, at the Armed Forces Medical Center at the age of 89 after a lifetime of honorable service to his country. Thanks so much for watching this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. At S News, we're committed to bringing you honest news and real stories. See you soon in the next video, and take care.